So good to see everyone here this morning. As we are here to worship God, to honor Him. Appreciate the good words in the prayer this morning, our Bible reading, the wonderful songs that we had, Brother Ricky led us in this morning, and the good thoughts that we had before the Lord's Supper this morning. As we focus on God and we focus on worshiping Him and honoring Him, we want to do things in the way that will be pleasing to God. And the only way we know to do that is by the way He's told us to do it, right? In His Word. He reveals it to us. In the Bible reading this morning that Lincoln led us in, Jesus was talking to us about the fact that our words reveal our character. And really that's what he was saying. And as a popular, he's no longer here, but a popular talk radio host used to say, words mean things. Words mean things. And Jesus said, by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. There's great power in words, what we say. Our words, or lack of them, often they say a lot about our attitude towards our mates. Our society, though, has neglected to use or perhaps take seriously the words that embody the important concepts that are essential to a successful relationship in marriage. Marriage problems are often a factor in the departure of many from the faith. There have been many that have left the faith because of that. I want us to focus this morning on some principles and some words that we use to express them, that hopefully that should govern our relationships with our spouse. You know, last year we had a series that we were doing in our Bible class on Wednesday night, and it was on the home. And we talked a lot about marriage and things, and I told you when we got through that, you know, we're going to continue from time to time because we need to keep talking about this. Well, this morning is one of those times, okay? And I was going back through my notes. I was going back through some old stuff for me, and I came across something that I found over 15 years ago, and actually talked about it some in a lesson back in 2008, so I'm hoping that some of you were here remember that. This will be a good refresher for you. But anyway, I want us to think about this one in some words that can help us, I hope, in marriage. You think about marriage, some words, Matthew chapter 19, verses 4 through 6. When Jesus was asked, is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife for any reason at all? He answered and said to them, have you not read that he who created them from the beginning made them male and female? And said, for this reason a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. What therefore God has joined together, let no man separate. You think about some wonderful words in marriage, you just take those words right there, and that really would be it. But let's think about some things this morning. And if you could say, and maybe you come up with say, well, you know what, if you could come up with the single most important word in marriage, what would it be? The single most important word. And I invite you, by the way, to write these down, these words. This is not something that's unique to me. I didn't come up with these, but I think that you're going to see they're very important words. Okay, very important. Write these down. the single most important word in marriage is God. It's God. You see, many people never consider God in their marriage at all. For decades, folks have been told that they are the product of some cosmic accident, the chance offspring of evolutionary forces. So then marriage is seen as a man-made social institution of evolutionary creatures. So if it's a man-made thing, then guess what? If it's a man-made thing, then you can treat it lightly. When a man is convinced he has made marriage, man can easily not take it seriously. However, we know that that's not the way it is. You see, God created man. If He created man, then we must take things in a more serious light. God created man, Genesis chapter 1, 26 and 27. He made man in His own image. And God ordained marriage. He created marriage. It's not a man-made institution. God made it. God regulates marriage. God can approve and disapprove of marriages. Therefore, God must be included then in every marriage in order for any marriage to be successful. Listen to me. Notice that I said must be included in every marriage. I didn't say in the wedding, but in the marriage. Not in the ceremony, but in the continuing relationship. God is the single most important word in our marriage. This distinction then is crucial for us, brethren, to have an element for success. God has set down the standard then for who can be married. In 1 Corinthians chapter 7 and verse 2, those who have never been married, obviously, right? God says you have a right to be married. Romans chapter 7 verses 2 and 3 tells us that those whose spouse has died, that person has a right to be married. In Matthew chapter 19 and verse 9, Jesus says those whose spouse has been put away for fornication, that person has a right to be married. And brethren, that's what God has told. God has also told us how success can be achieved and sustained in marriage. When you look at Ephesians chapter 5, verses 21 through 33, and we're not going to read all that this morning, but it's a wonderful passage for us. It's a wonderful thing to think about, but I want you to just think about 4 words. I was trying to sum up that passage, Ephesians 5, 21 through 33, where Paul is talking, he relates marriage to Christ and the church. Love, submission, sacrifice, and respect. You put those 4 things in there, in that passage, what he's talking about there. And God helps us with that. So the single most important word in our marriage should be God. But there's something else. Maybe the 2 most important words in marriage are thank you. We should be willing to be thankful. You know, as we were singing the song this morning, Count Your Blessings, I about just couldn't sing it. Because I started thinking. That's one thing I do when I start thinking about things. Well, you never know. Okay? But you start thinking about all the blessings that we have. Have we taken the time to thank God for a godly companion? You thank God for that? The husband needs to show appreciation to his wife for being a godly companion. In Proverbs 31, 28 and 29, they're talking about the worthy woman. He says, her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many daughters have done well, but you excel them all. You show appreciation for your spouse. The wife should reciprocate that appreciation. Ephesians 5 and verse 33, nevertheless, let each one of you in particular so love his own wife as himself, and let the wife see that she respects her husband. I want you to listen to me. None of us will ever suffer from too many edifying words of appreciation. But all of us know the discouragement of too much criticism. Let husbands and wives be grateful for each other. I came across this yesterday. I shared it with my wife. He says, no one ever died from saying thank you, although some may have killed over from actually hearing it. Okay? We never hear it, right? But we need to be thankful for one another. Thankful for our spouses. When there are no thank yous in a marriage, I can almost tell you there's going to be problems. There's going to be problems when you don't appreciate one another. So 2 most important words, thank you. Well, let's go to 3 most important words. And I'm sure you can guess some of these as we go. The 3 most important words in marriage. I love you. Couples need to express their love for each other. 1 John 3 and verse 18 says, my little children, let us not love in word or in tongue, but in deed and in truth. We should say it and then show it. Show our love for our spouse. We should do so, brethren, while we have opportunity. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with your might. For there is no work or device or knowledge or wisdom in the grave where you are going. You see, one of the best demonstrations of your love for your spouse is by finding out what God requires of you in your relationship, and then do it. And then do it. You see, the most important word, as we said in marriage, is God. And then being thankful, and then loving each other. Well, the next words, maybe the 4 most important words in marriage. Will you forgive me? And we were going good, right, until we got to this one, right? Like, oh no, will you forgive me? You know, we generally choose our mates because of, maybe you could say, like common characteristics, or we would say a basic compatibility. You know, we say, we get in and say, oh, we have some of the same interests. You know, we both like this, or we both like that, or you know, and some. But a lot of times we just see that because we just want to be with them. You know, a lot of times they're opposites. You know, the opposites do attract. But you understand what I'm saying? We think that, and yet 2 people will not live together without occasional conflict. Now, some of you that have only recently joined the congregation here, you're not going to know, unless you knew them from just being around, a couple that we had for a long time, Brother Billy and Sister Christine Fly. And so I don't remember exactly how many years, but there was well over 60 years that they were married. And 63, thank you. I knew it was over 60. And I remember Brother Billy, he said it several times. He said that he and Sister Christine, they never had an argument. Never had an argument. Over 60-something years being married, they never had an argument. Well, what I really think about that is that their love for one another was so great. They were so thankful for one another that, guess what? They just worked through. When a conflict came up, they just worked through it. And so it didn't feel like a fight to them. It didn't feel like it because they were going to go through it. They were going to work through it no matter what. And brethren, that's what we should be about. We need to be careful the type of words that we use to one another. When I'm talking about husband and wife. You can cut someone to the heart by what you say. And so, whenever conflicts arise, when things happen, you must be willing to ask for forgiveness. Someone was speaking to John Wesley, a woman, and she said, "My talent is to speak my mind." His reply was, "I am sure, sister, that God wouldn't object if you buried that talent." And so we've got to remember, brother, it's not always good to be speaking your mind and say, "Well, I'm just going to say whatever pops into my mind. Whatever, I'm going to say it." You better be careful. But brethren, when conflicts arise, we must handle it. We must take care of things. Ephesians 4 and verse 26 says, "Be angry and do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your wrath." You know, we've used that passage so many times. You'll say, "Well, okay, however long the sun's up, that's how long I've got to be mad." Okay, once that sun goes down, we're going to have to cut it off. The point is, you don't bottle it up. You don't let it fester. Okay, when there's a problem, something comes up with your spouse, and you need to work it out. And it's hard, isn't it? Because sometimes it's real easy just to walk out. Real easy just to kind of go away. Or don't say, but you've got to work things out. Reconciliation is the best. You know, Matthew 5:23 and 24 says, "Therefore, if you bring your gift to the altar and there remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go your way. First be reconciled to your brother, then come and offer your gift." Now, why can that not be applied in marriage? It should be, right? It should be. Think about that. When we wrong our partner, let us seek their forgiveness. When we acknowledge wrong, let us truly repent, not mere temporarily appeasing the other's anger. Be genuine about it. That will help us to have a successful marriage. The four most important words, will you forgive me? Well, that leaves us with the five most important words in marriage, and that is, till death do us part. I remember the old joke, right? He said, "Man, when we first got married, I just loved her to death." He goes, "Now I wish we had. Now I wish she had died." But brethren, that's not what we're talking about here. The point is, we should understand the commitment that's involved. Many say it and don't mean it. Many mouth the words only to bail out at the first sign of any problems. God intends for our marriage to be for life. Romans 7, verses 2 and 3 again says that we're bound to life as long as she lives. Death is possible. Matthew 19:9, fornication is possible. 1 Corinthians 7:15, sometimes a separation there it talks about over faith is possible. You know, number one, death, you don't have a whole lot of control about that sometimes, do you? But brethren, number two and number three, the fornication and separation are matters of sin. What did God say? Therefore, what God has joined together, let not man separate. Every time a marriage ends in divorce, there is sin. It is either one person or both who are guilty. There's no such thing as a no-fault divorce. Hence, when divorce occurs, it is man that puts asunder. And he says, what God has joined together, let not man put asunder. Keep in mind that God's intention was one man for one woman. We need to practice it and teach it. Success will come to marriages that operate under such an understanding of permanence. We need to praise and we need to hold up godly marriages as examples to the world. It can be done. You can follow God. You can be committed to one another. I want you to think about the most important words in marriage with me one more time. It all begins with God. It's all about God. It's all about being thankful, saying thank you, and meaning it. Appreciate one another, loving one another, saying I love you. Okay? And meaning that and showing that. And when you have conflicts that arise and problems that come up, you need to say, will you forgive me? You don't expect your spouse every time to be the one to come back to you, to say, I'm sorry. Well, I'm waiting on them to say, I'm sorry. And then, no, we need to be working together and realize that it's till death do us part. I want you to think often about these words. You see, brethren, they mean things. Words mean things. Say them and live by them. As you do, the Lord's blessings will be upon your relationship. Your home will be one of love, contentment, joy, and peace. Couldn't ask for any more. But it all begins with God, doesn't it? It all begins with God. I thank you for your attention this morning. We're about to sing the song, Nothing But the Blood. Nothing can wash away our sins, nothing but the blood of Jesus. If we can help you this morning in making your life right with God and turning to Jesus, and turning to this blood, and responding to Him in simple obedience, if we can help you in any way, we urge you and beg